Antanil Tulian Mildenin, and thank you once again for joining me. My name is Aramil, and once again I am joined by Lucas. Yes. Oh, say hello, Luki, to your adoring fans. Yes, Luki is here very shyly to keep you entertained while I talk about D&D and other such nerdy things. Ah, go. Just get everything properly set up. Once again, I am doing it on the double. So, let's see. First order of business, I will be taking a brief break from making videos for about 2 to 3 weeks. Hopefully, should be back in April. So that's the goal overall. Can I? No, 1 second. I'm gonna try and adjust my cameras a little bit. Show off Luki a bit more. Thank you. Ah! Hello, Cloud. Hello, Eritrea. Pleasure to see you both. And yes, Luke. Marvelous. So, yes, I will be missing probably 2 to 3 weeks, give or take. And that's just to, improve everything, get everything in working order, play around with editing software, and, have a bit of fun with that without worrying about my self-imposed deadlines. This and that. But today we will be talking about the very interesting and sometimes poorly understood topic that is prestige classes in D&D, especially D&D 3.5, though I will briefly touch on 5th edition. Now, what is a prestige class? Well, first and foremost, a prestige class is something that your character specializes into. Alright, so you have your base classes, which are your normal, your fighter, your cleric, your wizard, your rogue, whatever. Then later you have the chance of multiclassing, of course. So you could take a level, say you're a fighter, and you take a couple levels in rogue to give yourself that extra sneak ability, or what have you. You get the idea. Yeah. Yeah, so. Now, prestige classes, though, are more niche in many ways. They allowed the developers to explore concepts that are still interesting, but that don't have enough content to have like a full class based around, or are too narrowly focused to be applicable for most campaigns. So what's a good example of this? In the Eberron campaign setting, there are several very good niche prestige classes, and one of them, one that I really enjoy, it's purely for flavor, is Master Inquisitive. It's very much a noir style, investigative Sherlock Holmes kind of figure. I have a character in actually a campaign I'll be playing later today that took a level in Master Inquisitive just because it really fit that character profile, and it gave me a special ability, i.e., the ability to cast Zone of Truth once per day as just something that I can do. My character is just exceptionally good at getting the truth out of people who wouldn't normally tell it. Yeah, you get the idea. So, that's how prestige classes are. That's one reason why prestige classes are different from base classes. So, they have a niche focus. Now, the other thing is that prestige classes, as the name would suggest, have a certain level of prestige to them. You need to meet certain criteria to get into a prestige class. So, what's a good example? Well, most prestige classes have a base attack bonus minimum, or some sort of spell casting requirement. So you have to have like a base attack bonus of +3, or 4 levels in an arcane or divine spell casting. Some might require a special ability like bardic music or sneak attack or something along those lines. Many will require certain skill ranks. Though in 5th edition, of course, since they took out skill ranks, they would instead have, not proficiency. Just being trained in a certain skill. What's up, bud? You are shedding like crazy. Every day. So, prestige classes. So, like I said, they have requirements. All prestige classes have some requirement that you need to fulfill. Oh, feats. Feats are also very common requirements. So this means that pretty early on in your character's career, you will want to think about what kind of prestige class you want to take. Now, there are a lot of prestige classes that, overlap in some way, shape, or form, or that are pretty easy to end up in. But there are also quite a few that require a fair amount of work and specialization to get your hands on. And there's also quite a few that require a degree of cooperation between the players and the DM. And that's very important. Let me think. What's a good example? Like, I think it was the Knight of the Silver Chalice. I think that's one. That's at least a good enough example. The whole thing about that is you are joining a knightly order, the Knighthood of the Silver Chalice. Well, you better talk to your DM first before you even start going down that path towards getting to that point, and talk to them about, are these do these people exist? Does this group of people have anything to do with this campaign world? And that's kind of important to ask your DM. And most DMs will be like, yeah, sure, they're just not, common, or maybe they're really common, but not in the areas that you've been before, which is why you haven't seen them. Yeah, you get the idea. Or maybe they're a really spread out organization, or what have you. There's any number of ways that a DM can bring a new organization into an existing campaign, but it's important to think about these things. Especially, I'm going to try to not undisturb the cat. Sandstorm has some very interesting prestige classes, of course. I think it was, yeah, the Sand Shapers. Very interesting class, very, well, obviously desert themed, but the idea behind the Sand Shapers is that there was an ancient civilization of desert-based mages who ruled the wastes for many hundreds of years and disappeared like 3,000 years ago or something like that. And you're tapping into this ancient power and have learned this ancient and powerful way of casting magic. He's licking my arm, and it is delightful. You are a delight, Luki. Okay. So, yeah, do these Sand Shapers exist, or do you need to perhaps change the prestige class? Well, do you get your DM to change the prestige class to fit something slightly different in your campaign setting? Perhaps you are experimenting and becoming the first Sand Shaper. You get the idea. What's up? Okay, fine. He just started looking at me like I had said something absolutely horrendous. Alright. Now, prestige classes do exist in 5th edition. I did check. I was looking around because last night when I was thinking about this topic, I was thinking to myself, like, prestige classes don't exist in 5th ed. They've basically just been rolled into the base classes as class options, right? And for the most part, it pretty much, yeah. But there are some prestige classes. I assume, what was it? It was from, I think, Scarred Lands Player's Guide? Something like that. They added, what, 6 or 7 prestige classes to 5th edition. That is, I mean, it's good. It's funny in a way, but it's neat that they did include prestige classes. But if you compare that to the number of prestige classes available in 3.5, it is incredibly underwhelming in some ways. Just, it seems that every book that they came out with. Yes, Aramil talking about 5th edition. Yes. Don't worry. Albeit a rare occurrence, I will occasionally reference 5th ed. Because I know that a lot of people do play D&D 5th edition more than 3.5. I accept this begrudgingly. Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper and kitties to fuel my soul. Okay, now, but almost every D&D 3.5 book, it seems, added at least a couple of these prestige classes. So there is such a plethora for people to look through and find interesting, and I am not going to make anything even remotely bordering on an exhaustive list. It's just not going to happen, and honestly, it would be such a monumental undertaking to even begin to list all of the prestige classes available to an inclusive 3.5 campaign. So we're not going to worry about it. We really aren't. So, what are the benefits of a prestige class? Let's move on to that, because that's really what you're here about. Like, why should I even bother? It's like, okay, so the average D&D campaign, uh, players can go no higher than 20th level. Okay, technically, it is possible to go beyond that if you include the epic level handbook and all that good stuff. But let's face it, by that point, if you're not, a god among men, you've done something incredibly wrong. A 20th level commoner is godlike. Let's face it, just 20th level anything is incredible. So, putting aside that, you have about 20 levels to play with, and all of the base classes can go from level 1 to level 20. And you're pretty well set. It's just, there you go. And it's perfectly fine for a character to go from 1 to 20 and not even multi-class. These characters can be perfectly acceptable or powerful or what have you. Okay. Anything at level 20 is impressive. So, why prestige? Well, prestige classes offer a wide range of benefits and class options. You are falling off my lap, good sir. So, let's take one of my favorites, alright? Mystic Thurge, because it's fun. Mystic Thurge is a blending class for arcane and divine magic. So, let's say that you wanted to play as kind of a cleric wizard, alright? Maybe you're a cleric to a god of magic. Maybe you're just a wizard who really wants to heal as well as do everything else. Point is that you could take 10 levels of cleric and 10 levels of wizard, probably just, switching back and forth as you go along. Or you could take 5 levels of cleric, 5 levels of wizard, and then you are applicable for Mystic Thurge, if memory serves, which has 10 levels worth of advancement. So you can never be a level 11 Mystic Thurge. Okay? There's only 10 levels available. But if you took, 5 levels of wizard, 5 levels of cleric, okay, you're a level 10 character. And then the rest of your levels are Mystic Thurge, then suddenly you are effectively casting as a 15th level cleric and a 15th level wizard, because each level of Mystic Thurge gives you the spellcasting ability of another level of cleric or wizard. The familiar is pleased. So there's one big benefit. A lot of spellcasting prestige classes will still increase your spellcasting potential. Some of them will be not as good as if you had just gone straight spellcaster, but offer some other twist or special ability. Whereas others will be pretty close. I think one of my players, Esme, was looking at, what was it, Eldritch Knight? Which, after the first level, had basically a pretty steady, increase to spellcasting, but also then would give you better hit points and base attack bonus per level. So, you gain not quite the hit points of a fighter, but at least the base attack bonus of a fighter. as well as more hit points than a wizard, which is not hard to do in any edition. Excuse me. While still having the spellcasting firepower of an appropriately leveled wizard. You're just going to scroll out and enjoy yourself. That's fine. Also, feel free to comment if you have questions and help to direct my tangents, please. So, I know quite a few things, like previous questions about prestige classes that I've helped to answer, but if you have more questions, please ask. It's kind of why I'm doing any of this at this point. So, prestige classes. Oh, now technically prestige classes are not always for the players. There are plenty of prestige classes, especially in 3.5, that are mainly for the baddies. Yes. There's the Blackguard prestige class for Fallen Paladins. And that's kind of the archetypical example. I should note that a lot of these could technically be done by player characters, except for, I think, one, which I had to actually go and look up. And this is the only prestige class that I can recall, at least, off the top of my head, that is not really for player characters. Okay, which is kind of weird. Like, it outright states that this is for monsters and NPCs. And that kind of, I don't know, that kind of irked me the wrong way. It's like, if it's going to be a prestige class for NPCs and monsters only, then just make it like a template or something like that. But it is the Dungeon Lord prestige class, so you have your Dungeon Master playing a Dungeon Lord. Okay. So, once again, it is from Dungeonscape, because how many times can I say the word dungeon before everybody forgets that that's an actual word? But it basically is it's a prestige class for an NPC boss. Kind of like it's a way of giving the big bad evil guy at the center of the dungeon, or the bottom of the dungeon, I guess, too, just extra benefits and bonuses for making his or her lair in the dungeon more powerful, more potent, more interesting. That's fine. Just it's kind of odd to have an NPC only prestige class. You get the idea. Where are we at? We're at this. Okay, good. Sorry, I have to keep checking the time every so often so I don't go over. Alright. Let's see. Again, any questions thus far? I know I've seen a couple people in and out of the views. Let's see. So, other points on the different prestige classes. Remember that not all prestige classes will be viable in different campaigns. So, that Master Inquisitive will do very well in an intrigue and diplomacy heavy campaign. but it won't do very well in it won't do very well in a kick in the door heavy combat. Now you're trying to think of a way to make a PC Dungeon Lord. Oh, I'm gonna pull this back out. So, let's see here. Where was Dungeon Lord? It's actually under monsters, yeah. Which is a weird place for it to be. So, to be a Dungeon Lord, just as an example, and it helps to just give the kind of requirements. So, Dungeon Lord must have a base attack bonus of +5 or higher, of course. It must have an intelligence of 10 or higher. It must have the ability to cast spells or any spell-like or supernatural ability. You must have complete familiarity with the chosen dungeon environment and knowledge of the contents of every chamber, including other inhabitants, doors, traps, hidden objects, and all magical and mechanical effects. And you must be an aberration, dragon, fae, magical beast, monstrous humanoid, outsider, or undead. Alternatively, humanoids of the goblinoid and kobold subtype can enter this class. So yeah, technically, a PC could be a dungeon lord, but by the time a PC could become a dungeon lord, the dungeon is now empty. As you have gone through every room, every chamber, presumably having taken all of the loot, killed the monsters and whatnot. Let's see. And it does give certain benefits. There are 5 levels to Dungeon Lord. And it gives things like Dungeon Mastery. So, in this, while inside your dungeon, you can move at normal speed when unable to see and when crossing difficult terrain. You can move through any trap in the dungeon without triggering it, unless you choose to set it off. You automatically notice any difference to any chamber in your dungeon, such as a chair that is out of place, a bookshelf that has been reorganized, or an area of dust that has been disturbed. You gain a +8 bonus on survival checks made to track creatures in your dungeon. In addition, you can open or close any door or secret door in your dungeon as a free action. Fun. Horde Lord. You share your knowledge of the dungeon with the minions you command. Your allies gain a +1 bonus on attack rolls and damage rolls while you live and they are within the dungeon. At 5th level, this bonus increases to +2. Dungeon Step. At 2nd level, you gain the ability to use Dimension Door as a spell to travel to any location in your dungeon. You can use this ability a number of times per day equal to your intelligence modifier. At 3rd level, you gain complete awareness of your dungeon. You can use Clairvoyance, Clairaudience at will to view any chamber in the dungeon. In addition, you receive a mental alarm as the alarm spell whenever anyone enters the dungeon. The alarm tells you the location which the intruders entered, but it gives no other details. Let's see, Dungeon Minions. At 3rd level, you share your mastery of the dungeon with your allies. They can open and close doors and secret doors in the dungeon as free actions. At 4th level, you can cause the dungeon itself to rise up against intruders. Oh boy. Once per day, you can cast Animate Objects on any object in the dungeon. It's fun. And finally, Dungeon Defender. At 5th level, you become the unquestioned master of your dungeon. You defend it with the righteous fury of one whose cherished home is threatened. When you face intruders within your dungeon, you gain immunity to fear effects, and you gain a +2 morale bonus on attack rolls, damage rolls, saving throws, and other checks. In addition, the DC of the save against a spell increases by 1. And you get a bonus to your leadership score. So, basically, the Dungeon Lord prestige class is very good for any being who has found a home in a dungeon and plans to keep it forever. Beyond that, though? Okay, yeah, that's true. It is a fun idea if you want to flip the script and run a tower defense campaign. Yeah, I could see that. And that could be interesting. I see you planning, Claren. Calm down. It just okay. Like everything else in D&D, there can be an exception, but in general, in a we'll say more standard campaign, uh, one a standard campaign, despite me playing in one, will probably not revolve solely around a single dungeon. They happen, and that is definitely a type of campaign. But even when a campaign does revolve around a dungeon, rarely do you clear out the dungeon with the plan of then re-inhabiting it. That was kind of played around with in my father's campaign, where we spent years, literal years, exploring a dungeon. But it never materialized, basically. And we never got, like, minions or stuff like that. Lucius, come say hello. Say hi to Seb. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Oh, yes. Perfect. There you go. Much better. Yeah. Saying hi to the people. But there are plenty of more generalized and easily attainable prestige classes. I actually had a lot of fun making a character in Roz's campaign, which I'll be playing later today. Just seeing how many prestige classes I can tack on to this one character. I'm up to 3 right now. And the campaign's not over yet, so we'll see how we can play around with that. Okay. Miss you too. Oh. Sorry, I need to remember that the Facebook live chat doesn't automatically scroll down to the bottom. Alright. Or to the most recent, I should say. So, oh yes. A lot of prestige classes will be, in some way, shape, or form, niche. It's kind of the thing for prestige classes. And not all of them will work well in every campaign. So, like I was saying, Master Inquisitive, good for intrigue, bad for combat-heavy murder hoboing. Okay. Don't give me that look. Let's see here. Doing my best not to disturb the cat. Okay. The Eberron campaign setting has a few good, well, I would say very good prestige classes, but only in the Eberron campaign setting, or in campaign settings like that. So you get things like Warforged Juggernauts. Well, that's not exactly very helpful if, well, there aren't Warforged. Oh well, it's kind of the thing. what's a good one? Oh yeah. The Heir of Cyberus and the what's it? Dragon Marked? Yeah, the Dragon Marked Heir prestige classes both require dragon marks to exist. So if they don't, it's aka if you're not playing in Eberron, those probably aren't going to be great. Let's try and well, you've got your obviously the most general of all the prestige classes are actually in the DMG. So let's try and find. I forget exactly. Here it is. I have to be very careful because this book has seen quite a bit of use and love, and the binding is literally falling apart. But you'll get things like arcane archers and tricksters, the Archmage, very, very interesting Archmage. Oh, we'll go through the Archmage as a nice counter to the Dungeon Lord. So, requirements to become an Archmage. A character must fulfill the following criteria. Ranks, skills. Knowledge Arcana, 15 ranks. Spellcraft, 15 ranks. Feats, Spell Focus, Spellcraft. Skill Focus, Spellcraft. Wow. Spell Focus in 2 schools of magic. There we go. Ability to cast 7th level arcane spells. Knowledge of 5th level or higher spells from at least 5 schools. So, let's see, that would require you to be, what, at least 12th or 13th level mage of some variety. And it's pretty straightforward otherwise. There are 5 levels of Archmage that you can take. And at each level, you gain +1 level to existing arcane spellcasting class. So you continue to advance your spellcasting as if you had taken a level in whatever spellcasting class had brought you to this point. So if you took 12 or 13 levels of Wizard and then took 5 levels of Archmage, well, you're still casting like a 17th or 18th level Wizard. So no loss there. And as an added bonus, every level of Archmage, you gain a High Arcana secret. This is kind of it's an interesting thing. So each level it just says High Arcana, and you can choose from one of the many abilities. I'm just going to read a couple of them. Arcane Fire. Fun, always. The Archmage gains the ability to change arcane spell energy into arcane fire, manifesting it as a bolt of raw magical energy. The bolt is a ranged touch attack with a long range, 400 feet plus 40 feet per level of Archmage, that deals 1d6 points of damage per class level of the Archmage, plus 1d6 points of damage per level of the spell used to create the effect. That's a lot of math, but you're already playing a wizard, so you're probably used to it. For instance, a 5th level Archmage who channels a 7th level spell into Arcane Fire deals 12d6 points of damage to the target if it hits. Woof. This ability costs 1 9th level spell slot. Woof. Arcane Reach. The Archmage can use spells with a range of touch on a target up to 30 feet away. The Archmage must make a ranged touch attack. Arcane Reach can be selected a second time as a special ability, in which case the range increases to 60 feet. And so on and so forth. It basically is a way to take your wizard and then tack on interesting and perhaps not unique, but more unique traits and abilities. let's see, you got your assassins, your blackguards, which I mentioned earlier are largely NPC. They are meant to be antagonists more than anything else, mainly because it requires an evil alignment. Now, you can play an evil campaign before. I have run evil campaigns before, once or twice. It does require a bit of doing. It's just, you have to have like a specific goal in mind. Okay, fine. Or else you've just got a bunch of people running around like setting orphanages on fire. And while I'm sure that can be cathartic in some ways, it's not quite what we're going for here. At least that's not what I'm going for. Let's see, you get duelists, the Dwarven Defender, in case you ever wanted to be a wall that strikes back, pretty much. You've got the Hierophant. So this would be like the highest levels of a church might be a Hierophant. Lore Master, spellcasters that concentrate on knowledge and learn. It's kind of funny. So every level, they switch between learning a secret and learning a lore. So secrets, let's see here. The lore master chooses one secret from the table on the next page. So this could be like instant mastery, which gives you 4 ranks in a skill in which you have no ranks previously. Okay, or a weapon trick, you gain +1 on attack rolls. Newfound Arcana gives you a bonus first level spell. Applicable knowledge gives you a feat. Okay. Let's see. Or let's see here. Lore. I'm sorry. It's secrets, lore, greater lore, and bonus languages. So lore basically runs like the bardic knowledge feature, so you can basically roll to just know something, and even if you don't have much in the way of applicable knowledge, it's just like, oh yeah, I remember while I was reading in a library once, and I stumbled across this bit, and I can now exposition to the rest of the party. Okay, I'll go grab the cat again. Like many other old white men, he was hiding in the closet, so it's okay. Yes, Lucky is still here. He was just getting comfy in the closet. There you go. I'm glad that people are here for the cat as much as for the D&D. Yes. Let's see here. I know that he's appeared in a couple of my other videos too, so you'll just have to watch those and see which ones cats appear in. And for the people who are watching this on the Facebook, all of these videos are on my YouTube channel as well. So, there's that. And there's Luke Cares in my Dr. Pepper. This is normal. Yes. Oh, yes. Look, you're famous. You're famous. People love you. He's purring, in case you can't hear that. Alright. So, That is basically a brief idea on prestige classes. They are niche items that really can help to flavor your characters and give you access to new and intriguing abilities. We went over some actually pretty basic ones, I'll be honest. There are some that can really twist and give pretty extreme abilities. Like one that turns you into like solid metal by the end, something like that. You get the idea. Just very odd. Uh, as soon as you can, so probably by third level, assuming that you are starting at first level, get an idea on what kind of prestige class you want to be working towards. Because all of these prestige classes do require a fair amount of work to get into. Feat trees to carefully navigate, skills to cultivate, maybe entire organizations that your DM now has to incorporate into a what was a pre-existing world. It's just there can be a lot that goes into choosing a good prestige class. Oh yes, that's a good shot right there. So, are there any more questions? No. Okay. Well, now I really did enjoy the idea of having this video be on prestige classes because, as I mentioned before, I'll be taking a break from making videos for pretty much the rest of the month. But at the same point, this isn't the end. But it is what I like to think of as the pause before something even greater. So I think that doing a video on prestige classes really helps to... What's a good word, Luke? It really brings forth the idea that the best is perhaps yet to come, and I'm looking forward to sharing all that with you all, and with Luke, and with whatever cat I can, whichever other cat I will convince to sit on my lap for like 10 minutes of a video. So, I hope you've all enjoyed. Thank you all for just being here, being with me, spending just a little bit of your Saturdays with me. So, until we meet again, dear friends, Hantanil Tulien Mildenin, and farewell.